October 21st, Andrew Yang, he sat down with Robert Costa of the Washington Post, and he talked about his candidacy. That's right, Johnson. This is a series of interviews that have been done by the Washington Post where they sit down with candidates. They've sat down previously with Bernie Sanders, with Cory Booker, and probably with others who I can't remember right now. One of the things strikes you when you watch this interview is that Andrew Yang is sure a likable guy. Yeah, he comes out. Just look at him. Dapping up the audience. I don't know if we're going to see a presidential candidate or a Jay-Z concert. Just so engaged, so relaxed, so Andrew Yang. I don't know what it is about Andrew Yang, but he just seems like the kind of guy that you could really screw over and rob and take advantage of. I mean, he really does. He just seems too nice. Which is, as we all know, is a great characteristic for being a president. Americans are always attracted to leaders that seem like they are nice guys who aren't ready to lead. So Robert Costa asked Yang about the viability of his campaign. And, considering our political system, one of the measuring sticks of how viable your campaign is, it's got to be money, Johnson. So here goes Yang responding to that question.
What is your path at this moment to the nomination?
Well, we went from 2.8 million in Q2 to 10 million in Q3, which I dare say stunned the political establishment. And our numbers show that our growth is just continuing to take off. That $10 million we got, the average donation was only $30. So our fans are even cheaper than Bernie's. But there are a lot of them, and that number is growing all the time. So we surprised the political world in Q3. Q4 is going to be another high watermark.
Woo! Yang is on fire. Andrew Yang raised $10 million in quarter three. And you heard him say that was up from, what, 2 or 3 million in the previous quarter two? Now, to put a little context to that so it makes sense in your head, Cory Booker only raised 6, Johnson. Kamala Harris only raised 11. Think about all the publicity that Kamala Harris has received, and think about the fact that she only raised $1 million more than Andrew Yang, who's never served office, who's never worked, not in Senate, not in the House, not in anything. This is what we call amazing, and this is what the Andrew Yang campaign has been able to do. So it's very impressive. And we're talking about most of it from small donations of $30 or less, as Yang pointed out. Also, to add another wrinkle, Joe Biden only raised $15 million. And he was vice president. Yeah, Johnson. Big deal. So now in this clip, Andrew Yang is going to talk about the prospect of would he ever consider running as a third-party candidate?
You have momentum, but let's say you don't win the Democratic nomination. Do you pledge to support the Democratic nominee?
Yes, I would never do anything that would increase the chance of Donald Trump becoming president. The goal is to beat that man, get him out of the Oval Office. I genuinely believe I'm the strongest candidate to defeat Donald Trump in the general election. I'm one of only 2 candidates in the field that 10% or more of Donald Trump voters say they would support in the general, which means if I'm the Democratic nominee, we win. But if I'm not the nominee, I will 100% support whoever the nominee is.
So you're ruling out entirely as well an independent run or a third-party run?
Yes, I'm ruling them out.
I mean, it's kind of weird that Andrew Yang would say he wouldn't run as a third-party candidate. If anybody would run as a third-party candidate, you'd think it'd be Yang. I mean, come on. Some of his ideas on his website, pretty democratic, like legalizing marijuana, automatic voter registration. Then he's got some really progressive stuff like ranked choice voting, Medicare for all, but with a public option. He thinks that you should be able to keep your current provider, which is a non-starter for a lot of folks. But then we start getting into stuff that's like, it almost seemed like him and his friends were drinking beer, eating pizza, and just throwing out stuff like fragmentation, media fragmentation. Yeah, that's a good one. Marriage counseling for everybody. Yeah, that's a good one. American Mall, where you could just go to any mall and pick up school supplies. Yeah, that's a good one, dog. Oh, and my favorite, fight the spirit of hate. Just how do you fight the spirit of hate as president? It's like they were smoking weed and come up with this stuff like, what if we stop the spirit of hate, dog? Yeah. That'd be really cool. Turn up that easy, baby. Now, the entire interview wasn't just, talking about Yang's UBI. Some things led into Yang discussing other candidates, and it seemed it was obvious that Costa was trying to get Yang to talk about other candidates to make the conversation more viral or interesting. And Yang didn't shy away about criticizing Elizabeth Warren, which they had a little difference of opinion during the debates about automation being the issue that jobs are leaving, and Warren's position that it had more to do with trade policy. Here goes Yang responding to and criticizing Elizabeth Warren.
I want to come back to a comment you made about Senator Warren. You said she's mistaken in her view that trade is the problem here, not automation.
By the numbers, I do believe she's mistaken, yes.
Would the Democratic Party be making a mistake by trying to counter President Trump on trade rather than focusing on automation or other issues in 2020?
I believe they would. And so if you look back to 2016, Donald Trump said it's immigrants to blame. And then now Democrats are saying, I guess it's trade to blame. The studies I've seen have said very clearly that 70 to 85% of the job loss that we've experienced in manufacturing has been due to automation and technology and machines and not immigrants or trade. And so if you ignore that elephant in the room, I think you are making a grave mistake.
So we're on the same page. I had no problems at all with Yang criticizing Elizabeth Warren. I criticize Elizabeth Warren. You should criticize Elizabeth Warren. In fact, all candidates deserve to be criticized. And if Yang is right and there's not trade, if trade doesn't impact our jobs leaving, fine. Well, produce the data and let's consider it. And I'm also in support of looking at automation and countering automation with different programs that may stimulate the economy and also give people good jobs. Not these jobs that Trump likes to brag about, which don't pay a livable wage and don't come with benefits. Those are not good jobs. So I'm with Yang on that. My thing is this, Johnson. Yang has no problem criticizing Elizabeth Warren, but why didn't he criticize Joe Biden? Listen to this exchange with Costa where Yang goes the nice route of not saying some obvious things about Joe Biden.
Does Vice President Biden go far enough with his policy proposals to be a successful Democratic nominee in 2020?
I think he's the front runner in most polls. So,
but as you've said before, you think it's mostly because he's seen as the best candidate to beat President Trump. I'm asking, do you think he goes far enough on policy?
Oh, if you listen to Joe, I don't think he's really leading on policy. I think he's leading on, one, his own bio and his set of experience, and a restoration of the Obama-Biden administration. So I just don't think policy is like the main message that you hear from Joe when he speaks.
Yo, what's up? Costa set up that one like a nice softball right over the plate. Just lobbed it. And Yang didn't even swing at it. No, he took out his phone and started texting. That was such an obvious one to hit out the park, man. Costa says, does Biden go far enough on policy? Remember, Yang is supposed to be competing against all candidates. That's such an easy answer. Hell no, he doesn't go far enough on policy to win the nomination. I mean, unless he's running to become a Republican. And what's with the trying his best to be amicable to Biden? Biden has a horrible record. Anybody who even slightly is progressive, even slightly looks at the background of Joe Biden, the three strikes law, to the surveillance state that we live in, to the deportation under Obama, back to the bad trade deals, the horrible trade deals, to the Anita Hill hearings. I mean, there's just so much. The vote on Iraq. I mean, there's just so much on Biden that you got to comment on something. And instead, Yang's just nice. Hey, well, he's leading. Yeah, most of that lead is due to name recognition. Joe Biden's falling like a brick. Let's keep it 100. He's falling like a piano out of one of those goofy cartoons, old cartoons, right? And you don't capitalize on it, you don't bring it out. Now I know the Yang Gang is going to be like, well, this is just strategy that Yang is employing. Yeah, it's strategy. Strategy. Which leads me to my final clip. In this exchange, you're going to hear Yang offer information about what candidate he most relates to or feels more symmetry with. Listen to Yang's response.
Let's say you don't win the nomination. You have said early on in this interview you would support the Democratic nominee. Would you be open to serving on the Democratic ticket?
Of course. I'm not someone who's had some crazy native desire to be president of the United States since I was a kid, because I'm not insane. You know, I'm a parent, I'm a patriot. I just want to help solve the problems of this era. I believe I can do that best as president, but if that's in some other capacity, I'll be there.
Who on that debate stage is closest to you in terms of your view of the world? Who is closest to you in that sense?
You know, it's funny you asked that. I mean, you'd have to sort of like put us all together in some kind of like Franken candidate.
No, there must be someone in spirit who's perhaps closest to you.
I will say the only person who's taken me aside and said that we need to really worry about the fourth industrial revolution because it could potentially tear our country apart is Joe Biden.
Joe Biden pulled you aside. That's an intriguing. Would you serve on a Biden ticket? You said you were open to anything?
I'm definitely open to working with Joe. We've actually talked about it.
So that's Andrew Yang joining us for Post Live.
Thank you.
Now I get it. Yang is your guy, maybe, right? You like Yang. Or maybe you don't like Yang. Well, one thing's clear. Yang has been talking to Joe Biden about stuff. Yeah, he's been having that conversation with Joe Biden about a Joe Biden administration and if he'd fit into it. I mean, Costa asked him, would you go on a Biden ticket? And he said, I'd be open to it, and we've been talking about it. This is not what we want to hear. No, we don't want to hear that you're talking to Joe Biden. Joe Biden is the type of politics we're trying to get away from. I understand people don't want to admit that this was a screw up by Andrew Yang, but I actually applaud him for it because he's keeping it honest. He's keeping it honest about what he's in it for. And if you listen to this clip, he doesn't sound very much in it for us. Sounds like he's in it for himself, in it for a position.
My son's statement speaks for itself. He spoke about it today. My son's statement speaks for itself. What I think is important is we focus on why it's so important to remove this man from office. On the 17th, look, the fact that George Washington.
He wants people to know he's talking to Joe Biden. Maybe he's trying to help Joe Biden. And he went out of his way not to criticize Joe Biden. He said Joe Biden, he's not running on policies. And that's not a good thing, Johnson. Because policies are what presidents try to implement. Right? Policy. That's the purpose of electing a president. So, hey, I understand if you don't want to criticize Andrew Yang, but this ain't about your feelings. This is about reality. Nobody wants to turn back the book, go back in time and revamp the Obama legacy or the days of Obama. That's one of the reasons why we have Trump in the White House instead of Hillary Clinton. This was a miscalculation, I feel, on Yang's part. And no matter how you try to dress it up, Johnson, it's a non-starter. All right, Johnson, you asked for it. Here it is. Johnson Designs. Come on, Johnson. By popular demand, Johnson is here. I have new Johnson Designs in my shop. If you want to pick them up, check them out. They are hilarious, they are revolutionary, and they're all Johnson. You're going to love them, man. Check them out. Both parties suck, Johnson. It's one of my favorites. Independent media only, Johnson. Keep it real. We are all Johnson. We are. We're one big community, guys. Go check it out. Independent media only. Johnson's in the house. Both parties suck Johnson. We are here. They got a special going on right now. Free shipping. Get it today. Wolfpack.